Hello, welcome to Proofreading and Editing. Extra time equals extra marks. So proofreading and editing are so important. They really can increase your marks exponentially, which means a lot and a lot. So you're never going to be able to write a complete essay perfectly the first time. No one can do that. We're humans and therefore we make errors. So authors and writers, even the lady who wrote Harry Potter, usually proofread and edit 3 or 4 times at least. So being an editor is a highly paid job, so it must be important. People that are working for newspapers and magazines, there are editors on scripts and films, editors across the board. So it's such an important skill. You can improve your score by around about 15% in my experience. And this is by doing things like fixing the structure, simple things like correcting spelling and grammar, and improving your expression. So we need to think about a couple of things. For instance, the purpose of the essay. Is the purpose of your essay clear? Has it got a good structure and is it well organized? Is it coherent, which means does it make sense? Does it have great content? And does it really answer the question? And finally, language and format. Each of these 4 things are as important as the other. Before I get to what you need to do in editing, I want to give you some tips on proofreading to make sure that you are as effective as possible. First thing is get some distance from your essay. After you finish your first draft, I think you should put it away for a day. This means that you need to be really well organized in getting your essays done on time. You should never write your essay the day before it's due because you clearly are not going to do the best possible. So usually have a week to complete your first draft so that you've got a week before the due date to actually make those changes and do some strong proofreading and editing. So as I said, put it away for one day. This is because you're too close to your writing, which means that you're not going to pick up errors. You need to clear your head. Watch a movie, go for a walk, do something else. Just stop thinking about that essay, stop thinking about the structure or anything else, clear your mind. This means that you'll be able to come back with fresh eyes. And that's really important because it will enable you to read your essay from a different perspective. And it means that you'll be much more effective in editing and proofreading. Soft copy, hard copy. So there's 2 ways that you can edit. 1, on your physical paper, and 2, on your computer. So if you find it easier to read on a screen, you might prefer this version. However, if you find it easier reading paper, you might try this one. For me, I prefer this method. I like to be able to leave my notes. I like to draw arrows where things ought to go. I like to cross things out and change words. I definitely prefer the red pen process. However, some people might prefer to use the computer and make their editing on the computer. Very similar, but it depends on what you're comfortable within. Me doing this, I would get very frustrated and I know I wouldn't do a great job. If I did it this way, I know I'd be comfortable with it and I'm going to do the best that I can. Location. You really need to be able to concentrate fully in order to do good editing. You can't just sit in a noisy classroom or on a bus and try and edit this. You need full 100% concentration. So make sure you have a quiet and a comfortable space. If you can't have a quiet space, I would recommend putting some headphones in and putting on some classical music or even the sound of a storm or the ocean, just so you can block out that dark noise. Also, it is suggested that you do it in several blocks. So start with introduction and paragraph 1 and edit, proofread, go through that, and then go and have a break. The reason being is that you're going to get more and more tired as you go through your essay. So if you're not fresh for paragraph 3, if you're really, really tired, you're not going to edit it very well. You're probably going to miss a lot of mistakes. So do a little bit, have a break, do a little bit, have a break. Again, it will keep you fresh to ensure that you're picking everything up. Read slowly and aloud. Sometimes we read what we think is actually there. So that's why we need to do 2 things. We need to read slowly and read every word. It's not about getting it done quickly and ticking the box. This is a slow, methodical process. So you need to give yourself time to be able to read it. I said read every word. Don't just skip over. And that is why it's important to read aloud. When you read in your head, you just generally skip over little words like we, the, and, etc. But those little words can make a big difference in your expression. So reading aloud means that we hear whether a sentence sounds right, a word is spelled wrong, the wrong word is used, the expression is good or bad, and missing grammar. So reading slowly and reading aloud, it's something I suggest to all of you in anything you're going to hand in, whether it's economics or business or math or science. It's really important and it's a great technique to use. 4 eyes are better than none. So even after all of this, you are still the author and might have missed some things. So I recommend that you find a friend who is around the same level of your work. So if you know that in terms of the class, you're probably in the middle, find someone else that usually scores around about the same as you, and then you can swap and edit each other's work. This means, again, you're getting some fresh eyes and a different perspective at the same level as you usually are. If you are friends with the person who was top of the class, then maybe you would be happy to swap with them. It might be a really good opportunity to push you a little bit higher. Give a hard copy to the other person, read and make suggestions to each other. Now, be honest. So the more advice and suggestions, the better both of your marks are going to be. So don't think you're being rude. We call this constructive criticism. Constructive means that it builds on something and improves something. And getting a better mark, no one's ever going to be bad at you helping them to achieve that. Let's move into editing. So the first one that we look at is content. Most importantly, have I answered the question? So looking at your whole essay, have I answered the question? Have I stayed on topic? When I had someone talking, an essay being written about the change of technology and its influence on communication, this person gave me an entire essay about how gaming is so much better than it used to be. Now, while gaming is technology, that was not what the question was, and it was not the purpose of the essay. So make sure that you've stayed on the topic. Is my argument correct? Can I validate it? Can I prove it? This means that it's not your opinion or idea. This means you've got evidence to back it up. Is there missing information? So is there anything that I've not included in my essay that I should have? For instance, context, definitions, different points of view. Is there information not relevant? And finally, do I have evidence for each of my main points? Now, your structure of the essay. Number 1, do you have a great introduction? We've already done a class on introduction, so hopefully you've taken that to heart and done something really incredible and enticing. Have you done a great conclusion? Again, we've just only done a class on conclusions, so you should have a really important, interesting, punchy conclusion. My thesis is clearly stated in my introduction. So make sure that you've got your thesis and that the audience or the reader will be aware of what your thesis is. Can I tell that each body is related to my thesis? So do my paragraphs actually relate back to my essay argument? Are my paragraphs in a logical sequence? Should maybe I put paragraph 3 up to paragraph 2, swap them around? Does that make my argument stronger? And are there clear transitions between the paragraphs and points? So have I kind of led on and had a linking sentence to link my first paragraph to my second? So structure is really, really important. And do ask yourself, how could I structure it better? Is there a better way? If the answer is no, that's absolutely fine. But you might find that there are really great ways to move your sentences and structure around. Speaking of which, here is the structure of paragraphs. So first we've looked at it from a nice big perspective, so an upside down triangle, and we're moving down into the second area. So in terms of the structure of your individual paragraphs, do you have a topic sentence for each paragraph? Is the purpose of the paragraph clear? Can the reader understand why that body of writing is there? There's only one main idea per paragraph, so I haven't written 3 different conflicting ideas. I've kept that paragraph for one main clear idea. Am I missing any information? Are there statistics that I could include there, or some quotes? And am I missing any sentences to link the arguments? So have I made a full argument? Is there any information that's not relevant to the paragraph? Something I wanted to write and I like it, but it's not really relevant. Do I need to get rid of anything? Does the paragraph flow correctly? So could I change the sequence of sentences to improve my expression? And finally, have I included appropriately in-text referencing? Because we know how important that is. Editing is clarity and style. So have you defined any important terms? For instance, if you're writing about hypoxia, have you defined what that means? If you're writing about DNA, have you explained what that means? Is the meaning of the sentence clear? So read your sentences. Be very careful about the expression. And when you read them, do they make sense? Have you used the correct nouns and verbs, pronouns, and a really big one, tenses? If you're writing in past tense, make sure the entire essay is kept in past tense. This is an ongoing issue that I've had with students for the last 3 years, so be very careful about your tenses. To get a higher mark, have you used different sentence lengths? Sometimes a short sentence to really give a punch and impactful sentence, but maybe more of a compound sentence would be appropriate to explain something in further detail. You don't want all the sentences to be the same length. It will become very monotonous for the person to read. Do you use different starts of your sentences? If you're writing a process essay, are you just writing and then, and then, and then, and then, and then? Again, it becomes a very monotonous and boring reading. So have you changed up how you've started your sentence? And is your sentence structure the very best that it could be? Now, just some general things. I say general, but they're still as important as every other bit, as important as content and structure. Spelling, such an easy way to lose marks doing something silly like spelling something wrong, and you can fix it so quickly. Grammar, full stops, spaces. Are my paragraphs clearly divided? Have I got the same font throughout my essay? Is the size of my font the same throughout my essay? Is my in-text referencing in the correct GAC style, and do I have a correct reference sheet? Next, just before you've done it, and I'd recommend doing those things maybe twice before you hand in your first draft. Remember that you get a mark out of 5 for your first draft, which goes toward the entire assessment event. It is possible to get 5 if I can see that you've edited a good few times and you've worked really hard to produce the best essay possible. So this is an example of Mary in 12A, of her very beautifully presented essay. It looks great, it looks professional, and this is what I expect from you guys. So take a step back, Do you have a cover page? Do you have clear paragraphs? Does it look professional? And is there a separate reference sheet? Again, all simple things to improve your overall score. Finally, is it the best you can do? I want you to ask yourself two things. Number one, am I proud of this? Are you proud of it? Are you like, yeah, this is awesome? And number two, is there anything better that I can do? Anything I can do better? Any expression? Is there anything niggling at you that, oh, I just feel like that doesn't come across, or, oh, I really wanted to make that argument, but it's not very strong? If you have those feelings, you need to go back and work on those. And remember, I'm here as your teacher and here to help. So if you do have those problems, if you're just stuck, come to me and ask, and I can help with your expression. So if the answer is no to both or either of these questions, I need you to continue editing. If the answer is yes, have a final read over just in case you miss something, and then hand in your first draft. When you receive your first draft back and make your changes, you need to do this editing process again and again until you have your final essay. So that's all for today. I want you to make sure that you do complete your essay your essay editing before you hand in your final essay. And you'll know that I'll be able to see whether you've done this or not. I do hope this has been helpful today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next class.